arhn.eu. Old school, new school, all school. Test.
Hello. Remember the times when as a youngster you would sit in front of your TV and waste your night away playing Mario or Contra on your trusty old Pegasus family game system? Of course you don't. Being an English speaker, you probably had the undisputed pleasure of having the Nintendo Entertainment System officially released in your motherland. Many European and Asian countries, though, did not, and instead were forced to rely on the next best thing, cheap Asian knockoffs. That was over 20 years ago, and one would think that by now, things might have changed a little bit, no? Can you believe that in Anno Domini 2011, you could still stroll down one of your local flea markets, car boot or garage sales and score yourself a brand new NES clone? I couldn't either, so when an unexpected turn of events led me to an old-style European market, I've decided to go ahead and try to find one. With the stalls crammed full of plastic jewellery, clothing and cheap tat, I couldn't shake off the feeling that time has stopped in its tracks here a couple decades ago. So it wasn't much of a surprise to me when I finally found a modest selection of cheapo consoles. But wait! How in the world do you sell games for a system that's been dead since at least 1994? Well, it's easy. Change the title and slap a new sticker on it. While you're at it, fake a well-known brand. Thanks to this genius technique, we now have the pleasure of playing such classics as Ninja Cats, Kings 3, 2... or a plethora of 99999999999. The general concept applies to the knockoff consoles as well. Back in the day, these used to be modelled after the then current Sega, Nintendo or Sony hardware in hopes of fooling unexpected noobs into buying one of the fakes. How do they think they can get away with such obvious forgery in this day and age is beyond me, but personally, I decided to get fooled into getting a Funstation 3. It's not hard to picture a scenario in which a loving grandma procures a PlayStation as a birthday gift for her favourite grandchild. As you can imagine, consequences will never be the same. That's enough wasting our time. Time to put our Funstation 3 through its paces. Initial impressions? If I wanted to go the easy way and make a racist joke, I would say that it's a model intended for the stereotypical tiny Chinese houses. But because I'm not, and could never think of a joke so sophisticated, I'll just say that everything's really small. Comparison-wise, that's what the Funstation looks like when confronted with its superior. To be honest, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody with inferiority complex. Connecting this fine piece of equipment to a TV is a nightmare, and if we don't want to end up furiously throwing our controller against the wall, I'd recommend equipping yourself with a longer composite cable. Even the build quality of this thing is much worse compared to the clones of the yesterdecade. The Funstation is built out of cheap, most probably carcinogenic plastic. The casing feels so cheap that it bends even under minimum pressure, and inserting games into the slot puts you at the constant threat of permanent damage,
serious injury or even death.
Speaking of tactical insertion, it is safe to assume that you pop the games into the PlayStation-esque Blu-ray slot. Wrong! This would make too much sense, and that is why the cartridge slot is located in the stupidest location imaginable. On the bottom of the console. This is still too easy though, so to make things worse, the slot is much bigger than the cards themselves, so it takes ages to line up the connectors and actually make it sit in properly. Sprinkle it with a little bit of soft plastic nightmare and every single push seems to be tearing the console apart. Included in the box is also a cartridge promising 10 zillion, or at least a billion games to choose from. Let's take a look then, shall we? Or maybe let's not, because the console really likes to not play along nicely. 100 cursors and blown cartridges later... 100 cursors and blown cartridges later, I have finally managed to get the video to work. Yay! Is there really 1.21 gigawatts of games on the card? No. Olympic 2000, which based on the title seems to be 7 years older than the console it's bundled with, only includes 14 games. Well, okay, there's only 5 of them, really. Soccer, Mario, Duck Hunt, Galaxian, and Hyper Olympic. Hyper Olympic and Duck Hunt are broken down into individual minigames, which makes up the remaining 9 titles in the menu. What about the remaining 9,999,984 games? They're just repeats. Some of them, though, are turbo boosted. This one, for instance, modifies Mario to start the game from the 2nd level. Next! Ninja Cats is just a rebranded Kyoto Dindentayan, aka Samurai Pizza Cats, and is nothing more than your standard platformer. It was also never officially released outside of Japan. If you remember this cartoon, then congratulations or something. Moving on! Power Blade is made of sterner stuff. It's a pretty good Mega Man style platformer with Schwarzenegger on the title screen. I also got a Super 68-in-1 cartridge, which is just another compilation of games such as The Legend of Cage and Mario and Battle City is awesome! You might have noticed that these games have something in common. Even though they were bought in Europe, they are all either Japanese or American versions. Just like other fakes, the Funstation 3 is a clone of the Japanese Famicom with limited compatibility for US titles. The console is also forced to display the game in its non-native PAL format, which results in the video and sound being slightly slowed down, blah blah blah. What it boils down to is that it will come as no surprise for anybody to learn that I wouldn't recommend this pile of poo to anyone. It's cheaply made, of low quality, and not worth a single penny. But what if we already have one of them at home? Don't worry, I think that soon enough we'll find a decent use for it. Stay tuned!